Hi, I'm Nikita.
And I'm Moses.
And you're tuned into my prerogative podcast. And this morning we will be discussing...
what makes you you?
What makes you you?
You you.
You you.
Yo yo. Yo yo.
All right, so Moses was talking about... What is this? AI?
Oh, ChatGPT and how AI is rapidly taking over the world. It's kind of exciting, but honestly really frightening as well. Because it's moving really, really, really fast.
So what'll happen with people's jobs and shit like that?
It's
how much
already
would that be affected?
It's already changing because I think we're all used, especially us, like millennials. We're used to technology progressing fast. We saw the iPhone and all that come from the home telephone. We saw all that take years to come up with, right? But the prevailing idea is once AI gets to a certain point, it's beyond human innovation. AI is better at innovating than we are. So AI is better at improving.
AI will innovate its own AI.
Yeah, it's innovating itself. Because now, just to give you a quick example of what blew my mind, within the last year, AI was in its infancy. It was it's cool, it's a cool idea, it's a cool novelty. It can't do that much.
Within the last year?
So, AI, and what I mean is AI that is available to the public. Not
okay.
So, AI, go download ChatGPT on the App Store. It's a cool little thing. You can, talk to this AI, it can talk back to you. It was cute. Or, AI art. Look, we can make AI that can make pictures. They don't look good, but, it's a cool concept, right? Then within the span of a few months, it exploded. It got so much better so quickly to the point where, hey, it went from you can have a simple conversation to ChatGPT can write an entire essay. It can pass the bar exam to become a lawyer.
To be honest, though, I feel like we were pretty stagnant with tech stuff, in the 20th century. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it really took off in the 21st century. So, with the tech boom and just from there, I think it just, it rapidly it just never stopped growing and never stopped innovating itself.
So, the 20th and 21st together, I think, in the grand scheme of human history, are, such a huge jump in society, right? Because really think about, the beginning of the 1900s, beginning of the 20th century. We just got airplanes,
vacuum
cars.
cleaners, yeah.
We just figured out how to do all that. Then 100 years later, it's we have jets. Then we have supercomputers, and it's in the past 100+ years, it's really crazy how much we changed society. And I think society is still catching up.
But that's what I'm saying.
How different the world is.
That's what I'm saying. In the 1920s, it was just starting, and I feel in the whole 20th century, it slowly progressed, but in the 21st century, it just took off. I think more has been done in the 21st century than all the 21st century so far than all of the 20th century.
That's debatable. It depends what you value most, because in the 20th century, we're a lot of the huge foundational changes where it's hey, we figured out how to use electricity and cars and it depends on what you think is a bigger innovation. Do you think making the wheel or something back then was a huge deal or something? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I also agree where it's technology progresses exponentially. So the better we get at something, the faster we'll get better at the next thing. And we're just getting to the point now with the AI thing where in the span of a few months, this industry has evolved at a crazy rate that I don't think people are used to. Because people are already worried for their jobs. The big controversy right now is animators, the artists, the people who make paintings, make videos, make visual content. AI was it was so rudimentary, it can make videos, it can paint things, but not to a crazy degree. Then in a few months, AI can make can recreate entire art styles and combine them to make something wholly original. You can now use AI to animate things, which was something.
Okay, so it's been around. It's just become more available
to the
everyday person.
Yeah.
But it's always been around, though. So, I mean,
but
like,
even
what
then,
do you
not
mean, like,
necessarily to this, because it's almost like once you introduce something into the wild for everyone to consume, that's usually when things truly explode, because now the whole world is saying, okay, what can I do with this new technology? And the more you use AI, the better it gets. And that's the crazy thing. The more we tinker around with it, it's going to constantly improve itself.
I mean, I always say, like, you know, within the next 50, 60, 75 years, like, we will be like the Jetsons.
Maybe.
Where it's like flying cars and, like, you know, I can pull you up in my palm and, like, hey, Moses.
Oh, that's probably going to happen. Because now, I think maybe, like, 2 years ago, it would be like, who knows? Like, I'm sure the world won't be that different. Not that dressed different, like, 50 years from now. Now it's up in the air, because, like, I truly don't know what the world's going to be like 10 years from now. Like, we might...
Agreed.
Like, AI can truly do almost anything, and, like, it's definitely going to play a huge part in society going forward, because, like, it's probably going to be at least incredibly supplemental in, like, everything we do, where it's like, hey, you want to edit the podcast, you probably won't need humans to do it. Say, AI, do it for me. Like, you'll probably be able to do it.
I mean, but if you want to edit it and get rid of certain parts, like, you do need that.
You could just tell AI what you want.
I mean, but don't you have to, like, go through and listen to it to say, okay, I want to keep this and I want to remove that? Like,
maybe. Are
you saying, like, the AI, like, is in sync with my brain and, like, knows what I want before I want it? Like, is
it's
that what
kind of like let's say if we take Chat GPT. Let's say if you're...
Okay, can you spell that? Because I have no idea what you're saying.
Chat? Just
like,
the word chat?
Oh, chat. See, I'm thinking you're saying chat. Like, no, hey, chat. What's up? Okay, chat.
It's my accent.
Chat GPT.
Chat GPT.
Okay.
Chat GPT. Yeah, it's the way I say it.
Yeah.
But,
are you trying to, like, be cool or something?
No, it's just my accent. It's my accent. It's a Philadelphia way to blur words together.
Okay.
But let's say you just type in what you want. If you know what to request, and, like, let's say if you're specific enough, the AI can, like, understand. Sure,
it's like writing a code.
I'm sorry, like, not like writing a code, because it could just be a description. For example, like the huge innovation now is that ChatGPT can create a website, an entire website for you, just from a short description, where it's like someone took a picture of something they wrote on a piece of paper, uploaded it to ChatGPT, and said, "Hey, make this idea into a website, and I want to do this, this, and that," and it did it. And, like, sure, you can go through and check, like, okay, maybe change this, and it'll say, "Got it." But, like, there's no coding work. It's just, hey, type in, can you change this to do this? Sure.
No, so now it's like that's right up my alley. I've been waiting for ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's why it's such a huge, like, there's no, the specialists, like, human beings, we're specialists, right? To make society work, we all have a special little skill that we contribute to society. Like Moses the baker, Nikita the gardener, or Bob the builder.
You
right?
can be the gardener.
Fine, I'll be the gardener. But now it's like, with AI, it's like we can eliminate special skills, because it's like...
Well, you're talking about human intelligence?
Well, no, just like, hey, Nikita, do you know how to code? Do you know how to write code?
No, like, I don't. Are you asking?
Well, now, like, that's not a barrier
I mean,
anymore.
basic code. Like,
but now,
I built, like, a Confluence page for, like, my team. And I had to write code.
Let's say, like you say, Moses, I don't know anything about coding or something. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. Now there's no barrier to get the rewards for doing that, because, like, oh, well, the AI knows how to do it. I just need to have the idea. Now I have a tool that can do it for me.
I like that.
So, yeah, that's what makes it so interesting.
So it's like an even more sophisticated Alexa?
Yes. Like, the Alexa could do more stuff. Like, right. Alexa, do this. Got it. That's what makes it scary for people's jobs, obviously, because like, oh wait, ChatGPT, paint me this picture. I want it to look like this. I would usually have to pay a human being to do that. Right. I was like, yeah, I just type it in and I got it. So we'll create some friction in the elimination of some skills, maybe.
Okay. All right, ChatGPT. I see you. I'm gonna have to look into it and
look into it. It's super interesting.
And see what it's about.
I use it now for some things.
Oh, so you use it already?
Mm-hmm. So like, I was not a believer. I just heard about it for like a ton, but I never used it. I finally caved in and like tried it out a few months ago. It definitely is cool. I could see it being like, you would be surprised the amount of things you can ask it to do.
What's the turnaround for the work that you asked it to do?
So when I used it, I first wanted to try just simple things. I was like, hey, what's a good way to invest some money to get more passive income? And it gave me a ton of options. And like, I asked like, give me more. It gave me more. I was like, oh, this is cool. Or like, I was playing a Dungeons and Dragons game. I'm terrible at thinking up characters and ideas in that sort of space, right? I said, hey, give me ideas for a vampire artistic vampire character. And then it gave me like, here's 15 ideas for what this character in the backstory could be. I was like, whoa, that's actually really cool.
I like that.
So it just helps supplement your creativity. Like, oh, can you tell me how to budget my money with this amount of money for a month? It's like, here, maybe try this, and this. Like, oh, it's like, all right.
But how does that like cater to like you and like your situation? Like, just because like your budget plan may not.
You can be specific.
Okay.
So like, you can truly be really, really specific and like tell it about your situation. Hey, give me within these parameters, help me out. It even knew about dancing. It was like, hey, what's a cool routine? What's a cool bronze level routine for international samba that maybe try this, and this. So like, you know everything. Like, it's coming from me. It's coming from me too.
Oh my gosh. All right, so let's get into the topic at hand. What makes you you?
I feel like this is also slightly relevant. Since we're talking about AI. Are they, at some point, we'll probably have to think that they're people too.
What makes them?
Yeah, they get smart enough. Like, okay, what makes you a person?
So, I mean, if we break it down, like, we're multi-layered beings. We're not just a physical being. We're also a spiritual being, and also mental. So we have to constantly make space for all three of these beings to like exist in one body. Mm-hmm. And it does get super complicated, but the core of our being, I would say, is more spiritual. I firmly believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Mm-hmm. And so that's why, like, a lot of the rules that are associated with religion, I don't necessarily agree with, like the 10 Commandments and what you should and should not do, because like that may work on the spiritual side, but we are, we're also humans. I mean, we're also having a physical experience as well. And that doesn't translate, with the spiritual realm. So what do you think? What are your thoughts on just...
I guess in terms of like what makes me who I am, in terms of like, let's say, an immaterial part of myself. So like, if there's a physical part of myself, which is like my body, my physical brain, do I think there's an immaterial part of myself? Kind of, because I think...
And that's spiritual, right?
I wouldn't say spiritual. I'll say immaterial. Just because, like, something that isn't...
Like, what do you mean? Like... doesn't consist of matter, or like what do you mean?
I would say, like, let's say your consciousness, like the actual experience of consciousness, like what the thoughts in my head, those are maybe part physical, but also part non-physical, like immaterial. So I do think like your mind, let's say, is not something purely physical, because like the experience I'm having in my head right now doesn't seem, wholly the same as touching things out here in the real world. It feels a little bit separate.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and it also is different than the experience that I have in my head. You know what I mean? Like we're looking at the same picture, and we both draw different conclusions. So
like, I'm not a pure physicalist person when it comes to like your mind. I do think it's tied to your brain in some way, so I think it has a physical anchor. But like, I am willing to like believe like, okay, there's probably some non-physical aspect to it. In terms of like the spiritual, I don't believe in a soul per se, but I'm willing to believe in like the power of consciousness in a mind. Soul is a little bit of a stretch for me because I don't know what your soul does.
I mean, it could be consciousness, though. Your soul is consciousness. Maybe. Yeah. But let's go back to what you said about the mind being connected or being part of the brain. Because when I think of brain, I think of just like the logical part where it's like, oh, if I read this textbook, the conclusion that I draw from the textbook and my ability to repurpose it, use it in my everyday life, or even explain it back to you, like, that's my brain, like the logical part of me. My mind is the part that tries to understand what's happening around me. When I think of the mind, I think of like a computer that constantly perceives the world and my reality and what's going on in my physical existence right now based on past experiences and what it already knows.
Okay.
So the mind, I try to not disassociate myself from my mind because of that logic alone, but I try to create some distance where it's like, oh, just because I'm thinking it and I'm having this experience played out in my mind doesn't make it real for me, or I don't have to believe it. It's just kind of trying to figure out the situation based on past experiences and what it already knows. So,
what's the brain again?
The brain is the logical part of you, where
so like you're saying like the brain is your logical part, your mind is like your emotional side.
I wouldn't say
like
emotional.
But like it's the side that you think is feeling things, like reacting and feeling things out.
Yeah, so it's connected to that. Yeah. So like if I say, oh man, I find Moses attractive in my mind, then emotionally I may start to feel warm and fuzzy or like, butterflies on the inside. Logically, I wouldn't feel like that. If I'm just looking at you logically, it's just like, oh, Moses, oh, he looks nice. He has a nice nose. Oh my God, I love his full lips. But I don't have any emotions or feelings attached to that. And that's
wouldn't that just fall under the idea of like just consciousness?
Explain. Can you go into that a little bit?
In the sense of like you're saying, like there's your brain, which is logical, your mind, which is more reactionary and emotional. Like I feel like instead of like tying that to your brain specifically, it feels like those are just two halves of like your consciousness, like how you process and think about things.
I would say it's still a distinction there because, like, to me, like my consciousness, like that is like the God, like that is my soul. That's the God-like portion of me. So, like, my consciousness is my awareness. It's my ability to distinguish between my mind and what is playing in my mind and how I feel. So my consciousness is my awareness. Like, okay, this is happening. Just because my mind is telling me one thing and my feelings is telling me something else, like I'm aware that this is going on in my body right now. It's like total awareness.
I guess that's interesting, you know, because to me, the brain, when it comes to like my brain specifically, like the physical organ.
I like how you
brain,
say brain.
What? What's that?
I like how you say brain.
How do I say it?
You say brain like you're smart. My brain.
You say brain like you're trying to be smart.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Like your brain. I'm trying to say it a different way. But no, like your physical organ, your brain. When it comes to personal identity, it's like the brain just seems like a vehicle to me, where it's like the question of how my brain relates to personal identity is like, is my brain the physical organ, the thing that is constituting and doing all of these processes, or is there some immaterial thing that is there some immaterial experience that is working in conjunction with my brain, in the sense of like, is consciousness a physical phenomenon? Like, are my neurons firing in my brain in a particular way, creating this phenomenon in my head of me talking to myself right now? Like, I'm having a thought. I can hear it in my head. Like, is my physical brain doing that, or is there some extra part that I can't maybe physically understand, but is being created by my physical brain? So that's how I distinguish it.
So it's almost like you think of it as the same thing. It's like,
yeah, it's almost the same thing. It's just what's doing it. Like to me, like consciousness is the multi-layered experience I'm having right now by existing. But the question is like, okay, what's giving me this ability to do this? Is it my physical brain, or is it like, is there something immaterial tied to my personal identity that's letting me do that, like my mind or something? Like but then on top of that, is my brain creating my mind? Like if my brain is destroyed, does my mind go away? And that's where like I think the crux of personal identity.
No, I don't think so.
That's like where the crux of like the distinguishing between personal identity comes from. Is like, okay, if we start process of elimination, we start getting rid of things. When do you stop being you? So, like, with the idea of like the brain, your memories, your brain, your soul, your body, right? If I lose my body, and if I get a new body, keep the same brain, am I still me? Or am
Okay, hold up. Okay, so the brain,
your memories,
the memory,
your soul,
your
body.
So soul, body. So memory is the mind in this instance, right?
Yeah. So like memories has the best case for being what makes you who you are. Because let's take the movie, like, you've seen Freaky Friday before?
Nope.
You ever seen Freaky Friday?
Nope. If it's not a rom-com, don't even ask me about it.
It's not even a rom-com. It's like the mom and the
said
daughter.
If it is not a rom-com. I don't know
it's
about
like
it.
a teenage comedy, like where the mom and the daughter switch bodies.
I know what the movie is. I've like heard of it. I'm well aware of it. I've never watched it, and if I did watch it, I don't remember anything about it.
Okay. Well, in Freaky Friday, the mom and daughter switch bodies, right? Or they switch bodies, and it's a great example of like examining the question of personal identity, because they understand that they're different than they were the day before, even though they're in different bodies, because they kept the memories from their previous day of like, okay, the daughter understands, I looked in the mirror, I was me yesterday, now I'm in my mom's body, something's different. It's not like by switching bodies they just transformed into who that body represents. So it's like, okay, maybe your body, we can cross that out. Like, okay, that's probably not important. Or it's
okay, so like 13, 1 and 30. Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Sure.
So I do think,
like, yeah.
So I do think, okay, so I think like with the brain, it is just an organ. And so when you die, the brain dies, but the spirit, the consciousness, and your mind, like I think all of that stays, like the memories and all that, because like whatever you think, you feel, from that feeling, you may react, and that is all energy, and energy never dies.
But there's no concrete evidence for it.
Right, we can't prove it, because I guess it will fall under the immaterial category, where it's like, it's happening as a thing, but I can't, like, it's not tangible, or, you know what I mean? Like,
It's why, among those three things, your brain, your memories, and your soul, it's almost like a gradient of, like, what's easiest to prove, like,
right.
Like, for example, like, if we somehow preserve the Nikita brain and put it in a new body, odds are you might still be you in that new body. So, like, it seems like your brain plays a role in this in some degree.
Are you talking about, like, my personality?
Because everything that is...
I'm asking. Yeah. Are you talking about, like, my personality?
Or just you.
I doubt it. No.
Think of it like this. Not just your personality, but just, like, a continuation of your experience. Like, right now, if I take your brain out of your body, you're gone. Like, if your brain is in a...
This really actually happens in, like, Street Fighters and all those video games where you see
if you lose your brain...
I don't know, because, like, wouldn't that also apply to, like, a heart transplant or...
That's your body. That's a good question.
So just because, like, you take my heart out of my body and you put it in the next person's body, they may not feel the same way I feel. Like, feel things and process things.
Exactly. That's why body is crossed off. Like, it seems like your body, we've already proven through even...
But your brain is also just an organ. So are you talking about your mind?
This is good. Great question. So with modern medicine, we can cross body off the list because we transplant organs all the time. That, like, hey, just because I put Nikita's kidneys in my body, like, am I 90% me, some Nikita? Do I just take Nikita's organ and make it mine? Like, we know, like, okay, your cells will be incorporated in the mind and you'll be part of the Moses experience.
Oh, will you? Is that a thing?
Yes.
I didn't know
like
that.
You'll, like, your kidney
That's
will...
news to me.
Yeah. Everything joins the Moses experience. You'll become part of me. So then, as you say, well, your brain is an organ, right? Yes. But your brain performs additional functions that make you yourself. My heart pumps blood through my body, but my heart doesn't constitute my personal
Let me
identity.
stop you right there, because the brain is just the central processing unit where it connects all the different neurons to, So I don't think that that's accurate, or you could really, like, bet money on that, because on the brain being you. Is that your argument? Like, the brain, if you take my brain...
Of the physical things in your body, your brain is what physically constitutes who you are. Every thought... Well, let me finish, because what you're saying is, like, if you're arguing an immaterial thing, like your mind, your soul, your consciousness, it's hard to concretely prove that those exist outside of your brain. Because every thought, feeling, experience is triggered by some reaction in your brain.
True.
So, like, every sensation, every feeling, every decision you make is mapped to something happening in your brain. So to us, it's like, okay, we can concretely say that Nikita's experiences, the choices she makes, are tied to this organ in her head. So if we keep this thing alive and somehow get rid of Nikita's body, like, you would still be here. Does that make sense?
I think, I understand what you're saying, but the way I process it is like, your brain is just an organ. And so, say for instance, like, I switch my brain with somebody with, like, cerebral palsy or something like that. Like,
you're switching your brain?
Yeah, so I take my brain out of my body and I give it to somebody with, like, cerebral palsy or some type of, mental deficit.
So you're switching brains. So you're getting their brain.
They will still be who they are. The only difference is their brain may not be functioning where it functioned before, and they may not have like this limitation.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So wait, you're giving them your brain.
Right. That's what you were saying, right? Like, so my brain is associated with my personality.
And you're putting it in their body.
I'm putting it in their body.
Yeah, they're dead.
No, they're alive. We're both alive.
Wait, how are they alive?
Okay, I'm not saying that this can actually happen.
No.
Okay, hypothetically speaking. I'm saying your brain.
I'm examining the hypothetical. Are they getting your full brain? Are they getting half your brain?
No, they're like, we're doing a brain swap.
They're gone.
We're both still alive, though. This is a video.
Yeah, but like you said that they are still them, and my question is how?
Right, because the brain is just the computer that like holds everything together. So they had this mental deficit at one point where they're like to move their arms to feed themselves is not like that neuron isn't getting to the brain for whatever reason. And so they're not able to like feed themselves. They're not able to walk because the neurons that, are triggered in the leg that tells your leg to move, it's not getting up to the brain. So if I give them my brain as a fully functioning, fully working brain, they'll still be who they are, but now their body will be able to work because my brain.
Well, no, they're not who they are anymore. You gave them your brain. But
my brain,
their body.
I guess my argument is my brain isn't me. My brain doesn't define who I am, but it's not, though.
But see, so now we've entered the next realm where, like, what you're saying is kind of has no foundation of, like, believing.
But what you're saying doesn't either, though.
Well, no,
I'm sorry to tell you, but it doesn't. It's just an organ.
Well, no, but, like, the organ is provably tied to making you who you are.
Says who?
Says science. Like, this is
not...
where?
What article did you read that says, oh, my brain is who I am? Because I said earlier that just because I have thoughts and ideas and shit that plays out in my head, I disassociate myself, who I am.
Here's the
thing.
Like,
can I talk? Because I'm trying to make a point. I said that I disassociate...
But there's a foundation.
But you won't let me finish, though.
But I'm just saying. But the tangent you're going off on is ignoring the foundational problem of the issue.
That I don't agree with. I don't agree with that.
But that's the thing. You're operating in now an immaterial, faith-based thing. You're ignoring concrete, like science.
So is her feeding?
No, come back because we still have to.
But no, because like you can't to make this work. You can't ignore like concrete evidence. Like your brain plays a part.
I don't believe that that's concrete.
But no, this isn't about believing. Like we already know that your brain plays a part in who you are. If we get rid of your brain, for all intents and purposes, like if I take your brain out of your body, to all of us here, you are dead. You are gone. There is no Nikita anymore. Maybe you think your mind, your conscience is out there, but we don't know that. We can't prove that.
Okay, gotcha. So when you say your brain plays a part in who you are, I agree with that, but only in respects to being able to function as a human being. So my brain like triggers other parts and organs in my body to say, work this way, move this way, do this, lift your arm, swallow, those type of things. That's what my brain is responsible for, not my ideas, not my personality, not my likes and my dislikes. That's something completely disassociated from my brain.
So in your mind, we could all switch brains and nothing would change.
Yes, that's what I think. Yeah, it's just an organ. It's just like
it doesn't make any sense.
To you, it doesn't make sense to you, but it makes sense to me.
No sense.
Well, that's because I'm saying that my brain doesn't equate Nikita. That's not who I am. That's what I'm saying. This topic is what makes you you. I don't think my brain makes me me. I think my soul is who I am.
But how do you know you have a soul?
And because I feel it. I connect with my soul. Like? It feels like me. It feels like my truth. That's what it feels like. It's instinctual. It's not anything that I can logically articulate to you. You would have to have that experience, and it's not. I mean, I guess you could call it faith. I mean, that could be a word that you could use for it, but it's a feeling that I get when I connect with my soul, and my consciousness, I would say, is strongly connected to my soul, but my mind is different. So if I gave you my mind, then yeah, you would be like Nikita, not my brain. That's all I'm saying. My mind and my brain is different. Now, I can't explain it to you scientifically because it may not make sense to your scientific mind.
Or philosophically.
I mean, what was the question?
Because I guess, like, I'm willing to concede if
you don't have to. You don't have to, though. Like, well, no, you can agree to disagree.
I'm willing to concede if it's like, if we acknowledge that we're entering a faith-based territory and outside of a philosophical one. Because now it's like we're just discussing what we believe.
I thought that was philosophical, though.
Philosophical has to have some logical foundation to it, where it's like, okay, but
this isn't. I mean, I guess it makes logical sense to me, though. Does it have to be scientifically proven to be philosophically true?
To be logical, you have to be able to articulate and give the logical proof for it and have it stand under scrutiny. I think there's a disconnect between.
What was your question?
I forgot.
No.
I forgot.
She is her. So you think that your brain is Moses. That's who you identify with, Moses. So if your brain was removed, then Moses is gone.
I think in the philosophical consensus is that your memories are tied to your brain. If I somehow could keep my memories while not keeping my brain, I would be me. But my memories are tied to the neurological experience that happens in my brain. So if I somehow switch brains with someone else, I would just be switching bodies. Like the vehicle.
So what about people with short term memory loss or long term memory loss?
Yes, that's what makes with people who have dementia and let's say Alzheimer's, it makes it such a frightening experience because if you forget who you are, you're losing part of your personal identity. Let's say if I don't remember who my wife or my children are, that's a huge part of my identity. That's a part of my life that's now lost access to me.
Okay, but just because you don't remember that you like chocolate cake, but you still like chocolate cake, like, how do you explain that then?
Who says if I forget that I like chocolate cake that I'll keep liking chocolate cake?
That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, okay, so if you had like dementia,
mm-hmm.
and you're forgetting your sense of identity because your brain is deteriorating,
mm-hmm.
but every time you see chocolate cake, you go and you eat the chocolate cake. You don't know, you just think you like chocolate cake, but really...
In that scenario, there's no guarantee I'll want chocolate cake. There is evidence of people with Alzheimer's doing different things because they don't have the causal chain of memories that led to them liking that sort of thing. If I never knew that I like chocolate cake, I might not try chocolate cake unless someone gives me chocolate cake and I discover again that, hey, I like this.
Or maybe you don't discover it again. Maybe you just like, oh, I like chocolate cake all of a sudden. This is really good. Like or I love chocolate cake, but I don't remember that I love chocolate cake.
What do you forget that you like chocolate cake?
You said what?
Why would you ever try chocolate cake?
Because it's given to you. So it's part of dinner.
Someone has to facilitate this reintroduction.
Yeah, but you love it. Like, oh, this is so good. I love this cake. Even though I don't remember that I love chocolate cake, when I taste this chocolate cake, I love the chocolate cake. So just because you don't remember that, you don't remember your identity doesn't mean that it's completely stripped and removed from you.
But it is.
You just don't remember it.
Well, no, I'm doing it again. Someone else introduced chocolate cake to me. That's me creating a whole new experience. That doesn't make
sense to me, though. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. What you're saying right now doesn't make sense to me.
So if you forget that you like chocolate cake, and I give you vanilla cake, and you love it, that's you creating a whole new thing. Maybe you didn't like vanilla cake because of some other event that happened in your past.
That's not the question. That's not what I asked, though. I asked that...
No, I'm using the same line of logic just to challenge what you said. Like, wait, I'm creating new memories. That's what makes dementia and Alzheimer's frightening. Is like, I don't remember the person I used to be.
Where did the vanilla cake come from? I was saying that...
Exactly like you said. Someone gave it to me. Like, I have no recollection of liking cake.
Okay, I guess that wasn't my point then.
Like if I have no recollection of liking cake, that part of myself is not available to me anymore.
Okay, so let's conclude this conversation because it's not going anywhere.
Only one more would be amnesia. What if you just lose all your memories? For all intents and purposes, you could be a new, different person. It happens all the time. We're like, hey, I don't remember you guys. I don't remember you, wife, children, family. I have no emotional attachment to you, really. You say I do, but I'm basically a whole new person now because I don't have access to the memories we shared. That was a different person. I'm now post-amnesia Moses. I don't know you guys.
Yeah, but you got the same brain, though, so...
But the brain is damaged. The brain doesn't have access to...
But you still have the same brain.
But as you said, the brain is damaged. It's brain damage, which loses access to a part of my immaterial memories.
Okay.
So now I'm a whole different... I'm amnesia Moses. I could be a whole different dude now. So like your memories play a huge part. They are tied to your brain in some way. So it's like...
I would say your memories...
I could maybe come back.
I would say the memories is tied to your mind, though. But I think that mind and brain is different. See, but I think it's different. So that's I guess that's where we kind of like go our separate ways, and that's fine. Like I genuinely understand where you're coming from. I just don't see it that way. So
it's kind of like, yeah, I feel like the best example is like. Or at least the biggest one is like I don't understand. I guess if you switch brains, how you're not just going to wake up in a different body.
Okay, so what? Okay, I believe that when you dream, your soul leaves the body, and you're actually having that experience without the body.
But your brain is super active. When you're dreaming.
The brain is not active, though.
Wait, yes, it is.
I said I believe your soul.
Yeah, but I'm saying like, but also when you dream, your brain is incredibly active.
Possibly.
So it's like your brain is doing a lot of stuff that like seem to pair with your immaterial experience. So it's like it seems like your brain, at the very least, plays some integral role in this process. Where it's like, I need this thing.
So I will have to study that then, because I don't know really what the brain is doing or how active it is or where it's triggering when you're asleep and you're having dreams. I will have to really look into that to have this discussion with you.
But I think like the biggest question would be like, if you switch brains, do you think you would wake up at a different place? Like if you and I switch brains, would I wake up at your house in your body?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But you think so, apparently.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you next week.
Peace.